And welcome back to the 36th episode of Power and Possibilities. As I shared last week, I changed the show again to coming live every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as my commitments and schedule has shifted. 2020, nothing is consistent in 2020 except for waking up every day and going to bed every night, right, Wendy?
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah.
That's about the only thing.
Which we'll talk about, because that actually is a part of transformation and leadership as well. So I want to first I want to share just how Wendy and I met. Wendy was a guest on my show when I first started back in March or April. I can't even believe it. And we had some tech difficulties, so we couldn't go live, but we recorded it and I uploaded it later. But I met Wendy last year in a transformational leadership experience, a really intimate mastermind where we were going in and not only just looking at our blind spots and the things that weren't working in our life, but we were really celebrating and amplifying all the things that are working, all of our gifts, all of our talents, all of our skills, and really up-leveling in this beautiful, powerful, interruptive way, which we'll talk about interruptions or disruptions, however you receive that. And so, Wendy Paquette, let everyone know who's watching, who you are and who you be.
Thanks, Tiff. It's so lovely to be here. I'm just going to shift my phone so I don't hear it twice. I'm a holographic reprogrammer. I live in Canada, and a holographic reprogrammer is someone who sees the programs in your mind and is able to shift them. So that, are you hearing me twice there?
I do hear a little feedback. So it's the phone. If you turn the volume down on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love technology. That's my mantra forever.
Yeah.
I love technology because sometimes doesn't love me.
Yeah, same here. As you said that, my phone just fell down.
I saw that. So I run a live radio show called Crossroads to Awakening, and it's to support all humans, but in particular I speak to women because that's who can hear me sometimes better than men, but to see the crossroads that they are at and actually lean into a choice. So generally the crossroads is somewhere they've been or are headed, and they get to shift into something else because it's not working for them. So that's what I do, speak to the masses on what's possible in the state of everything, like the reality where we're at right now, and support them in seeing something that's different and choosing something different. So yeah, I truly believe as a high frequency human, we all get to see ourselves in our reality exactly how we're showing up. And so as we did leadership together, a transformational experience, it was really a heightened awareness of how we're showing up in the world. Yeah. And so in that transition, we got to shift into an even greater aspect of ourselves, which shows up in our reality as well.
I love that. I love that. And, what's one of the cool things about Wendy is no matter what's going on in her space, I mean, can you feel her already? It's like so light and up and elevated and conscious. And that's really something I appreciate about you, is that your commitment to shift and move and get curious about what is in the space presently. So I'm excited for this conversation today, which, we're going to talk about transformational leadership. So for those of you who caught my show last week, and for those of you who know me intimately, you know that over the past 4 days, I've been deep in a 4-day intensive transformational leadership experience. And this part of the experience is called Breakthrough. And really what occurs here is breaking through all the way, going all the way deep down, which is what we're going to talk. We'll define that for you. And then having tools and awareness on how to move forward with all of that. So Wendy, let's start by just defining transformational leadership, or what transformational leadership means to you.
Yeah, well, in a nutshell, and really truly, it's a simple thing. Transformational leadership is experiencing more of you in the world in its consistent change. So however you're showing up, you're seeing. So realizing your 100% responsibility in this reality, that whatever you're seeing, you're being. And if you're not liking it, you can shift it. And that's the transformational piece. So yeah, it's leadership. So leading in your reality. I see your phone's having fun. Leading in your reality from the space of 100% responsibility and seeing what it is that's showing up for you, and what's not working, you get to shift it into what will.
Beautiful. Yes. And I love that because, you know, we were having a little conversation before we popped on here. And, you know, even how we started with just 2020, keeping us on our toes. And, you know, what's really interesting is that how, you know, and I love how you brought forward the responsibility piece. And being in this year of, you know, the heightened awareness that it is an election year in the United States, an election for president, which, you know, that's a big deal here. And then became global pandemic. Then in this country, we move into a civil rights uprising. And, you know, what's so powerful about technology, that was powerful. And what's so powerful about it all is that there's an opportunity right now. There's such an opportunity. And really, that's why I wanted to bring forward transformational leadership today. Because, you know, as I've been speaking with several different guests over the past few months, we've been talking about it, you know, using it in ways to describe things or to share some you know, action steps or what you can or can't do. And what was missing from my point of view was actually defining it and letting you know what we mean when we're talking about transformational leadership, because I'm really invested and committed to that responsibility piece and that sourcing, causing and creating. Because Wendy, what we just talked about before we popped on was empowerment, being empowered in our being. And even what you shared in your bio, that there is so much more. Mm-hmm. Even when we think we are there, there is more there. There is a higher there.
I mean, the acceptance is that transformation is forever. Like there's not going to be a point in your life where you're not transforming. It's from now until like it's infinite, truly. Because when you die, your body then transforms and your soul transforms, everything transforms. So it really doesn't ever end. And I believe your acceptance of that, if you're willing to accept that, it takes the weight off of you, the pressure that you have on yourself in order to be something you think you have to be, as opposed to something you would like to be. Right? Because there is time to get it done. There's always time to get it done.
Yeah. And so let's dive into there. Let's dive into that piece because I want to go deeper into the responsibility and empowerment piece. Yet I love this piece of knowing, and I really love that example of even when you're dead, you continue to transform. That is just so beautiful. And wow, that landed for me. So when we think about the notion, if you will, that there is always something, it just reminded me of, you know, people feeling either helpless to being quarantined or feeling helpless about the virus or helpless about, you know, what's going on with civil rights, or just feeling helpless with, you know, feeling that there are no options. This is the way it is. So deal with it, settle, and there's no hope. So let's talk about that in regards to, you know, and in our work and in transformational leadership, we call that the victim mentality or the victim mindset. And I know even when people hear that, they're like, it's like a trigger right there. Like, you know, because even, you know, people who are in powerful positions or are, you know, confident and strong, you know, to hear victim may not resonate with them if they don't have a definition of what victim mindset and victim mentality really means. So
they have resistance to it.
Yeah.
It's a resistance to the word itself, for sure. Yeah, it's awesome. Actually, it's funny that you're bringing this up, because my last radio show, the topic was feeling lost. And not long before that, I did one about being your purpose, being on purpose, because everyone, it comes right down to the granular space of realizing that, yes, we are 100% responsible. We sourced all these things, even if it came from a cultural perspective from millennia ago, centuries ago. It doesn't matter. It's still, we sourced it as a human race, right? Yeah. So being that we sourced it, we get to own it as the responsible source of it, and then be that change, whatever that looks like. So be in this space of acceptance of like, yeah, that happens. And who do I get to be now in order to shift that so that it doesn't continue to happen? So I have a couple of things that came up while you were speaking about that. One is empowerment in yourself to own your next move. And not only own your next move, but people always say, oh, well, what's my purpose? I want to know my purpose. Like, why am I here? And I struggled with it. I'm one and the same, up until a point where I realized that you're not born and then some magical fairy comes down and says, this is your purpose. Here's your big purpose. This is what you have to be. And then you got to spend the rest of your life figuring it out.
Yeah.
And then the disappointment of like, maybe you'll never figure it out. And then you look outside of yourself in order to source the answer from somewhere or someone else. Already you've lost, right? Because if you're looking for it, what if you never find it? And how do you even know that it exists if you can't find it? So you're in that lose-lose situation. And my resolve to that, my remedy per se, is what if we came in here with no agenda? I literally went into a deep state trance meditation for myself and asked these very questions. That's how I sourced the information. I pulled it through because I was so desiring to support others and understanding like what is actually happening right now. And the information I received was so profound, even I was like dumbfounded in the moment. It was, we come here with no agenda. Let's go play. Let's be the cause of evolution. Like, let's evolve as whatever we land as. Human, animal, tree, whatever. We land as humans, great. Now as a human, we're evolving in our space and we're looking around going, wow, what is going on here? Right? What's my purpose? All of a sudden someone's like, you have a purpose. You have a purpose. You've got a central purpose. Okay. If we have no agenda, how do we have a purpose? So then the question becomes, in the moment you are in the very moment you're in the now, you are on purpose in your purpose. In the now, you're alive, you're present, and you're aware of your now. You're on purpose right now. So for an example, a simple example is, if I'm making dinner for my family, my purpose is making dinner for my family. I am on purpose in that moment. That is my purpose. I get to be all in on the joy and bliss of making dinner for my family. I am all in on that purpose. And when that purpose is complete, then the next move is whatever it is, and I'm on purpose fully in the now then. That is the purpose. If you behave in that way your whole life, imagine how amplified the love, the contribution, the experience, excuse me, of gratitude for the space that you're in, you could create. And if every moment, and I believe it is baked right into the next, man, it's exponential what you could experience moving forward. So seeing what we source. So I have a really great example, like this past weekend where we live in Southwestern Ontario, Canada. There are some beautiful humans. It was a grassroots movement that decided they were going to end hunger in our community right now. They're going to end it. And so a bunch of them got together and decided, okay, this is how we're going to do it. And they had heard somewhere before, like in another county not far from us, that they did this like mass can drive or food drive. And they raised like I don't know, it was something insane, like 350,000 pounds of non-perishable items. And so they're like, yes, that's what we get to do right now. Let's do that. Let's end hunger in our area. We're going to call it June 27th Miracle. The June 27th Miracle. So then someone, actually it was one of my friends. She's an actual radio host. She gets on and she sends a video around that goes viral. And she says, listen, you guys, on June 27th, there is going to be a miracle.
Yeah.
Basically declaring it, right?
Mm-hmm.
All you have to do, and she sat outside, she pulled up some cans of tomato sauce and all kinds of things, put it in front of her and goes, all you have to do at noon on June 27th, put some cans out and we're going to get volunteers and they're going to come pick it up. So you don't have to leave your house. So you got a few weeks, collect all your things, put them out on your front on Saturday, June 27th. That's Miracle Day. And we're going to end hunger in our community. Let's see what we can do as community. Well, you want to talk a rally cry with hearts wide open. It was the most magnificent thing I've seen. 11,000 volunteers.
Wow.
11,000.
Wow.
They're still weighing the count, but last I heard was over 1 million pounds of food.
Wow.
Now, get this clear. 4 mass arenas,
Mm-hmm.
both full of food. Donations coming from all over. Think of this, over 1 million pounds of food, non-perishable. There are only in our county, Windsor, Essex County, 398,000 people. How long do you think 1 million pounds of food was there? So then today it came to me, I'm like, wow, for people who aren't out shopping, who aren't socializing, who aren't, out there just like extra buying, what happened that caused everyone to be so crazy generous and have all these things without actually going out into the world? Mm-hmm. And it was the moment that the toilet paper saga began. What do you think happened to people in that moment? Right? Wow. We don't have any toilet paper. I'm imagining, this is my head, just making it up, right? We fall into this, source a scarcity of toilet paper. The scarcity mindset sources everyone to go out. Oh my gosh, if there's no toilet paper, what if there's no soap? What if there's no this? What if there's what would I do with that? A new toothbrush, what would I do with that? So, almost like hoarding everything we can get our hands on. Now we're going through the weeks and we're like, oh, okay, we got extra toilet paper or whatever. All of a sudden, someone has this brilliant idea, and I know that they weren't consciously connected, but now that I see the underlying thread, they're like, yeah, let's cause a miracle. What does everybody do? Here you go. Here's everything. Let's change the world. Yeah. And so they will, right? And so hunger will literally be ended. Now, that is everyone's awareness of what is possible when you lean in.
Yeah. And Wendy, that is beautiful. I'm sure there's some sort of news clip or something on that going on in your community. I would love.
There will be. Yeah.
Yeah. If you could follow up in the Facebook post and pop that in there, because that is remarkable. And I want to go back to the piece you shared right before that example, which was you believe that every moment is baked into the next. Mm-hmm. And it reminded me of, when we think of that word purpose or vision, we go, it seems like this incredible, magnificent thing. And it is, yet in your, description of what purpose means to you is that, maybe there is no agenda. It's happening in the moment. It's happening moment from moment. And, what I'm hearing you say is that purpose is simple. It doesn't need to be something complex and like divinely given to you, that your purpose could be in the moment. My purpose right now is making dinner for my family.
Your purpose in the moment of your birth was your birth.
Yeah.
Being alive in your birth, like staying alive in your birth, that was your purpose, right? Next moment to next.
It's so when we go back to, just the piece around, if you're joining us live right now, we are talking about transformational leadership, which is how both Wendy and I met each other last year in a transformational leadership mastermind. And really the power of having, we started off with talking about the responsibility piece and how we actually can create and actually do create and generate everything in our lives. And then we hopped into the victim mentality, the victim mindset of things are happening. So the way I define it, the way, you know, I've experienced it is things are happening to me. I have no power. I have no control. And, you know, I have no dog in the fight. This is just happening. So you know, my one vote doesn't matter. My $50 I contribute to whatever drive or, you know, thing that's going on doesn't really matter. And, you know, when we think about the pandemic, you know, you and I were even talking about just washing your hands is power. It gives you choice. It gives you a result. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when we think, you know, when things are labeled in such magnified ways, that we tend to think we have no power, we have no choice. Like, can I cause a president going into office? Can I cause myself landing a new client or getting a job? Can I actually cause, you know, creating people eating in my community? Can I actually cause and contribute or create that for myself? And in the space of transformational leadership, the answer is yes.
All day.
There are no no's in transformational leadership. And you know, there's a trainer. I don't know if you've met her yet. You might have. Her name is Myrna Gonzalez, and she says that no means new opportunity. Mm-hmm. So it might be a no right now in this moment. And I know, Wendy, you're a moment to moment kind of human being. So the no might be right now, but guess what? New moment, new opportunity. Mm-hmm. Just like, you know, the woman I am today is not who I was last week. Well, I'm not who I was last year. So we always have these new moments. And that's where this power comes in of choice and of creation. You are actually the creator, the generator, the author, the designer of your life and of what's going on in the world. Mm-hmm. You're creating what's going on in the world as well.
I love that.
What's coming up for you, Wendy?
What so many things, always. But the no piece, I love. Mm-hmm. Because how you respond to the word no is all you.
Yep.
It's all you. Like, whatever you think the word no means to you, I mean, you could look back as a child and know, you know, you could realize, okay, when my mom said, no, don't touch that, there was an underlying purpose. Don't touch that because it's hot or what have you, right? There was certain like elements, but it was a no, don't kind of thing.
Yeah.
And in the moment, because you're a kid and you're all about trying everything and doing everything, the no to you was more of like almost like a disempowering experience, because you're like, well, why not? Why not? Right? Like, you're in that space of like, I want that.
And in other cases, there's no is the final answer, the final result. And we know that's not true either.
Yeah. And that whole experience is whatever you decided the word no means to you is how you're going to experience it now. Mm-hmm. Instead of looking at your reality and going, well, they're saying no, although there's many, many things going on in this area that's a no. Because listen, if I'm driving down the street and it says don't drive down here, I'm either going to turn right or left or back around, which will take me somewhere else. I still get to go somewhere, just not where I was headed. So I guess the word no just brings you back to, I was going to say vision, because we're talking about responsibility. And yes, maybe we came in with no agenda, and being on purpose is every moment by moment. But what really, to me, is the cause of your experiences in this reality is your big vision of the world that you'd love to live in. When you have that for yourself, now you're headed somewhere. You're like a boat with a direction and a GPS. Because you've received a no, it doesn't mean, no, you can't have it, because you're the decider of that ultimately. It's maybe no and not in this direction. And so therefore you veer around the big rock, right? That had the word no on it. So you don't smash into it. So then the no becomes a space of gratitude where, man, I'm in such gratitude for that no, because had I kept going, my face would have hit the wall. But because I heard no and didn't take it as a negative thing, I took it as an opportunity. I veered left and my paradise was right there. I had no idea.
Yes. And I love that, Wendy, because, where we've been in the last 5 weeks here in the United States is, this space of conscious conversations around racism, social justice, equity, all those things. And people are starting to actually like confront, and not like, but just confront those topics and those experiences within themselves and with people in their families.
Mm-hmm.
So, no does not mean we give up on ourselves or the people we love. And the no is like, okay, that didn't work, that didn't land. We get to go back and now assess and like debrief it. Like, okay, what didn't work about that? Well, actually, what worked about that? Because there's something that worked. What worked was your courage to start the conversation, your love for, yourself, the other person, and your commitment to whatever that, if you're going in.
Connection.
Yeah.
The actual connection that was made just by the conversation alone. Yeah. Which I'm feeling right now is what we've created for ourselves. The lack of connection, like personal connection, has created the opportunity to see the value in it because we don't have it right now.
Absolutely. And that's why I have so much gratitude for 2020, because boy, has she been a disruptor. She has created so many opportunities globally, global opportunities everywhere.
Yeah.
And, going back to the conversations, with yourself and with, potentially people in your family, is that these conversations have been creating things that you might not have wanted in other areas of your family. Mm-hmm. Whether it was just lack of transparency, lack of authenticity, just, that real deep intimacy. And I know that rings true for me. Mm-hmm. That real deep intimacy that we all are here for, all of us.
When we're putting avoidance in the way, because we know something doesn't feel right, so we choose avoidance over facing it.
Yeah.
That's where,
it's the whole comfort thing. I'd rather be comfortable than to create love, intimacy.
And to transform.
Yeah. So, okay. So for those of you that are joining us live, joining in now, so we're talking about transformational leadership. And again, I wanted to call this forward today because as I've been speaking with my guests and as, 2020 is happening every day, we've been dropping nuggets in about transformational leadership, but I haven't taken the moment to just pause, define it, and, talk about what it means to me and talk about what it means to, other people. And a lot of you have been asking questions, and a lot of you have been sharing what you thought it meant and what you experience, from what we've been sharing. So far we've talked about, the space of responsibility. We moved into what's known as the victim mentality. And so, Wendy, where I'd love to go to now is really into that space of creation. Mm-hmm. And, as we were talking about before we hopped on, we were talking about just all the possibilities that are out in that world waiting for us. Mm-hmm. Yet in that victim mentality, or, when we're not activated, we're mm-hmm. We're waiting either for permission, we're waiting for collective buy-in, we're waiting for it to be comfortable, or we're just like unconscious or numb. Yeah. And we don't feel our feelings to actually fully express ourselves. Yeah. So what's your experience around the waiting versus creating?
Yeah, well, as you and I both learned, in transformational leadership, it's who you are one way is who you are in every way. Mm-hmm. So who you are being now in this moment is who you're being everywhere. And if what you're leaning into is waiting for something, if we all chose that, just say the whole globe said, okay, we're just going to wait and see what happens. Who's actually going to show up? Who's actually going to show up to be the change if we're choosing to wait, right? For whatever it looks like. So it's not run out into the street, and be crazy about anything. It's what can I do right now that will cause me to take a step forward? Just one step forward. Maybe it's call a relative that you haven't spoke to and create a connection. Maybe you have connections with people, but they're not deep connections. They're surface connections. And really, if you called on that person, would they come to your aid or not if you required them? That's a good question to ask. Like, if I knew I could call 10 people, but I didn't know that if I asked them for support, if they would show up, how would I feel about that? If I thought for a second that none of them would, or would I even know? Like, you get to ask some really deep questions about who have I actually been up until now that has caused my life to be valuable and worth being grateful for, so that I can move forward and shift that. Because right now, when you're quarantined in your home, or you're not really truly out in the world like you would normally be, what else would you rather do than to create a space for yourself of transformation on your own? Like, what is my life really about? And how can I experience my world with more joy, with more possibility? And what's that burning, etching thing that you want to say in the world that would cause a positive change? Because maybe you're the next politician. You just didn't realize it. Maybe there's something that really irks you in your town or your city that you're like, oh my gosh, if they could only do this. What if you're the only one who has that? Maybe there's parallel thought, what other people do, but what if you're the only one to stand up and say something? What if you are the cause and you be the change? And then others go, oh, I've been thinking that all this time. I just wasn't brave enough to step out into it in order to be it, so that others could, stand beside me shoulder to shoulder. That is what, like, leadership, in my perspective, actually is. It's having the courage and bravery to see something that can change and not be an armchair critic. Be that.
Yeah, I love that. The armchair critic.
Yeah.
As we call digitally, they're called the trolls as well. Mm-hmm. And I love that piece, because the armchair critic, and in some ways we call them the backseat driver, is, and what's really interesting about the armchair critic is they have so much to contribute. And, and when I think of that person or that way of being, it reminds me again of that victim, like, there's no hope, there's no change. And it shifts into complaining. Mm-hmm. So adding to the noise rather than adding to the resolve. Mm-hmm. And, there's this space right now where in our country, I'm so lit up by young people. I just watched a town hall meeting where a young woman, I believe she was 19, came in. And how in the States, town hall meetings, I believe you get 5 minutes. And man, did she use up every nanoseconds of her 5 minutes to let her city officials know what her vision is. Mm-hmm. She listed actions and everything. And I was like, that's leadership right there.
Yeah.
She didn't have her parents do it. She didn't, send a letter. She got up on the microphone and used every nanosecond of her 5 minutes. And I was inspired, and the courage that I experienced from that allowed me to see how much more I could be causing and creating. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm here behind a computer with a live show, wonderful, great. And there's another possibility. And you reminded me that of just saying, like, local, like, mm-hmm. It's not always just about like the big, intense, massive, national or international feats, yet we all do play a part in those experiences. But it's these other pieces, mm-hmm. that there is creation there, yet we think sometimes that the only way we're going to be able to create change or transformation is on the big, massive scale, which is true, yet it takes a chip, a step, a walk, a leap at a time.
Well, it's the standing shoulder to shoulder. Like, I'll take it right back to the June 27th miracle here. It's like June27miracle.com. That's, if you want to check it out, they have a video and stuff on there. But why I take it back to that is because if everyone thought, oh, I don't want to, I don't feel like going through my cupboards, that's a good idea. Like, good job, honey, you go do it, kind of thing. how much do you think would actually be contributed? Like they made it so simple to contribute. They made it easy. Just grab a few cans, set them out on your porch at noon, and someone between noon and 4 will pick it up. And so that's all anyone had to do. And the rally cry was this: hey, yeah, make sure you let your neighbors know, or your family know, in case they're not on Facebook, or they haven't heard what's going on. But that's the contribution of one human with one idea, bringing it to a couple of other humans, enrolling them in their idea, and then those humans, and it ripples out. So it affected, like, who knows how many people it affected. Physically, it'll affect every human in our area that has no food.
Yeah.
Emotionally, it'll affect every single human that has heard or knows about it everywhere, not just in our community, in our population, but rippling out everywhere. Who knows how far that goes, just that idea. It starts with one person. It was one person's idea.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine if you were the one person in your community that thought, oh my goodness, town hall gets to shift. Well, I'm only one human. So what's the first thing that I can do to understand how that even works? Go there. Yeah. Sit in on one, like, be brave, right? Go sit on a town meeting and see how they work it, and then bump into someone sitting beside you and say hello, introduce yourself, and ask a question. How does this work? How do people get on that, board? How do I become that? How can I contribute? Is there a place where I can deliver my ideas? How can I get on there? And then get on the committees, be on the support, and move your way to the spot that you see you could make the most impact. Just by being you, bringing your beautiful ideas to the table. And what happens if across the globe, everyone like yourself and anyone who's deciding, yeah, you know what, I think I could do that. Like, I could probably do that in that contributory way. If they did that across the globe, what do you think would occur? 1 million pounds of food? Just like that?
Or 1 million pencils and pens at schools, or new textbooks.
Name it. Name it. That's it.
I mean, we could, that's a laundry list, like an incredible, inspiring laundry list. And I'm just blown away. So Wendy, as we bring this to a close, one of the pieces that, as I said, if you're just tuning in live, I personally just came out of a 4-day transformational leadership experience. And one of the key lessons and key experiences was, whatever you want to cause and create in the world, be it first or give it away first. So if you want peace on earth, give peace away, be peaceful. If you want love on earth and in your family, love. Show up loving, no matter what is going on in your community, at your dinner table. If you want love, be loving. And that is such the gift, the reminder and the gift of how powerful we are. And that's what real transformational leadership is being and giving it away first, rather than just expecting it or waiting for it to happen or occur. Because every one of us is a leader. You don't need a title to be a leader. You are a leader when you start causing and creating whatever it is you want. So you want, responsibility in the world. You want, people to be responsible. Be responsible. Be responsible with your word, your commitments, the way you show up. And that's really the essence, if you will, of the whole idea and the whole concept of transformational leadership. So in your final, the last thing, what else would you like to add? And as we complete this conversation today, Wendy?
Yeah, I love this conversation so much because it's so inspiring, right? Mm-hmm. To be able to know that there's something else out there. I feel like if I could leave one gift, one thing that one person could hear, it's if you're seeing your reality as a reflection of you and you don't like something in it, What can you change about you, inside of you, or your frame of mind, so that what you're seeing shows up different?
Mm.
And what if that's the one thing that causes the ripple effect across the globe that changes how we all experience the world? Just one thing.
Mm.
It's possible every moment of every day to choose that with no agenda, just to experience something a little more joyful, a little more peaceful, a little more, full of gratitude, a little hop in your step.
Yeah.
To have a reason to get out of bed in the morning and be grateful to be alive. Yeah.
I love that. And I love your message from before that it's really simple. It's not as hard as we think. It's not as complex as we think.
No.
So Wendy Paquette, thank you so much for joining me today on Power and Possibilities. And we have a bunch of questions and shares in the Facebook. So Wendy and I will hop in there. We'll get to all of that before the end of the day today. So Wendy, let people know where they can find you and how they can continue having a conversation with you.
Oh, thank you. Well, you can find me on Facebook. I think we can post something in your thing. It's Wendy Bruner Paquette. It's my middle name in the middle, or Wendy Paquette. You can look it up. But I have the most beautiful community called the Crossroads Academy. And my vision for the world is inner peace. And because we have inner peace, what do we see in the world? Outer peace. That's the whole purpose of it. So it's a community of coming together, creating that in your space and rippling it out in your own reality, in your own world, with your own family, friends, and neighbors. Come play with me. Come play in that space, have conversations, and let's talk about it. And if anyone has any curiosities about how they can see themselves in that small shift, I would be so open to having a conversation. I can give you a link and they can book a 20-minute call. Let's talk about it, because I really truly believe that we can achieve the type of inner peace. Starts here first, right? So the type of inner peace that causes outer peace in the world, it's truly, in my world, it's 100% possible. And I'll spend the rest of my life like being it, so that others can actually be it as well. So come play with me.
Yes, I love that. Come play. It's like, again, it's so simple. Yes, there are challenges, but when I hear inner peace, I'm like, oh, who doesn't want that?
Yeah.
And inner peace creating outer peace. Thank you so much, Wendy. So Wendy Paquette, thank you once again for playing with me today. And thank you everyone who watched us live and who's watching the replay later. I will see each and every one of you next week. And just a reminder, the show has shifted to only Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you, everyone. Have a beautiful day.
Thanks, Tiff. What a beautiful message. Bye, everybody.